Hey there, 352ers. So I'm on the road, and so I don't have easy ability to make a good screencast for you. So it's this week's hint for the practice WOD will just be me showing you a solution in NetBeans and pointing out a couple of things. Don't hesitate to email me or ask Rich for additional help if you want. So this practice WOD is supposed to give you, supposed to look like this. I'll just take a look here. It's supposed to look like this, where you have a history of browsers here, and it starts out with 3 buttons and a little thing that says mouse over. And this is really just a table. It's a table with 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, and 1 column. And these are just floated. These buttons are floated in one of the rows. Now you could do other ways of doing this, but I put it into a table so it was all compact in one area. I could control the size easier, especially if we're going to put this on a phone or something like that. And then when you mouse over it, you see it switches to whatever symbol. And then when you click on it, it's going to go to the corresponding page. So how does this work? It's pretty simple. It just uses 2 events that are added to the buttons and in a div. So you can first see here's the table, and you see set up the table, and then the table data, table row, table data. There's another table data here, and these are just being floated. You can see this is float left, float none, float right. And the magic happens with the on mouse over event and the on click event. So the on mouse over event is all it's going to do. You don't need any fancy functions. We're not really talking about that kind of stuff yet. All you need to do is anything that we just talked about already in the follow along. Document get element by ID. The phone info element is this div right here. And this div is inside that 3rd row of the table. See TD, it's just sitting inside there. And it starts out, that div has this text, that's the default text. And so what happens is when I mouse over, this event occurs, it gets that document ID and sets its inner HTML, which the inner HTML of this div is this text element here. It's going to set it to an image tag. So I'm changing the HTML from a text element to an image tag element, which is fine. And this image tag, unfortunately, it's a little off the screen here. By the way, you should get this word wrap thing. I don't think I have it installed on this one. We should take a look at that. There's a word wrap plugin for NetBeans, which will wrap all the things into a certain space, which is kind of nice. But right now you see the image tag, it just says image HTML, and the source is our logo, and you pick a height, 200 by 200. The only tricky part here is these quotes. You see that the inner HTML equals a text string. So this is the text string. It's a single text string. And you'll notice that we're already inside another text string with a double quote. So on mouse over has double quotes here. So the event has this whole thing here in double quotes, right, which ends here. And inside here you need to set another string which we can designate with single quotes. If we use another double quote, it would get confused. This double quote would get confused with that double quote. It would think you're ending it. And that's the only tricky part here. The other tricky part is the image source. Also, typically this would be a quote too, but since we're already inside a text string, we don't require another quote here to designate that this is a text string. This whole thing is going to be a text string, and it's going to be put into here. It's going to replace this whole thing. Whatever's in the single quotes is going to be the HTML in here. So you don't need to put any quotes here. If you put any single or double quote here, again, it's going to get confused with this single and double quote, and it's not going to work. So that's pretty much the only fancy tough part about this practice WOD. Of course, you just repeat the same thing for Chrome and for Internet Explorer with the different, same code exactly, just different image address. And if you set it all up right and you do the right styling and stuff like that, it'll just work. So that's it for that, and hope that you are successful with this, and be sure you practice it, because there'll be a WOD on Friday